Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, I should say. First, let me introduce you to my brother, Bill. This is Bill. Every year since I started law school, when I would go home for the holidays, I would get cornered by Bill and have to answer all these questions and kill his dreams that he's not going to be able to start these particular type of businesses. So the latest ones from last year were, hey, Rob, I want to open a bar and call it Bar Wars. And I want to use the Star Wars logo, but it won't be Star, it'll be Bar. And I want to reenact Star Wars scenes in that bar every 15 minutes. Can I do that? Or let me try to start a barbecue restaurant and call it R2 BBQ. And these are the type of questions that I get from him. And what you're about to hear is the 7 or 8 minutes of trademark speech that I give to him. So this is in honor of Bill. You're getting a WED talk in trademarks. So real quickly, I would love to be your lawyer, but I can't be your lawyer until you show me some green and we sign a representation agreement. So the point of this, guys, is a 10,000-foot view of trademarks, what a trademark is, maybe why you should have one, okay? So it's for general informational, educational purposes. If you need specific questions answered or need a specific legal representation, you can contact a local attorney, all right? Very good. What is a trademark? A trademark is a word, a phrase, a symbol, a design, or a combination of any of those things that identifies the source of a good or a service, okay? It does not identify the nature of a good. It identifies the source of where the good or service is coming from. If I were to say to you the word hamburger, you might think about beef on some buns, put some bacon on it, okay? Maybe some cheese. I haven't eaten lunch. But if I said to you McDonald's Big Mac, something concrete comes to your mind, okay? That's what the trademark does. When you think McDonald's Big Mac, you think 2 beef patties, all special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, right? You might also think about the fact that it's going to be the same no matter what McDonald's you go to around the world. You might think about the fact that there's that consistency in that brand. You're going to think about the fact that you're probably, no matter where you're at in the world, 2 minutes from a McDonald's, right? The source of that hamburger, right? And that's the important part of what a trademark is. The trademark is more to protect the public from from being able to be confused about what they're actually buying. If you went to a restaurant and every restaurant had Big Macs, the word Big Mac would lose that meaning and lose that idea, and it just becomes a generic term like hamburger. So that's what the trademark does. It's going to protect the public from brand confusion. So let's look at the two trademarks that we have of 2 different brands. It's the same thing. If I were to say cola, you might think just soft drink, something bubbly concoction that you drink on a hot summer day. But what if I said Coca-Cola? It's the same thing, right? Coca-Cola is the most recognized trademark in the world. It's the nectar of Atlanta, as we call it. It's delicious. You might think about a hot summer day, drinking that after a baseball game, okay? You have a concrete feeling when somebody said Coca-Cola. What about Cheerwine? Anybody from North Carolina in here? Yes, so y'all know all about Cheerwine. Cheerwine is a cherry drink from North Carolina. It is a quirky brand, and you'll have a different understanding of what you're going to get when you buy something that has Cheerwine on it. So, understanding what a trademark is, and I want you to think about your own business when I go through these categories. Trademarks are going to fall into one of 4 categories. The first one is fanciful or arbitrary. A fanciful or arbitrary trademark is one in which the name or the phrase or the symbol is entirely distinguishable from the nature of the goods. And what I mean by that is Amazon, Apple, Nike. Apple has nothing to do with computers, at least until Steve Jobs started that, right? When you think Apple, you think of a fruit, not computers. Apple is a fanciful trademark for a brand of company that makes computers. Does that make sense? The next one is going to be suggestive. A suggestive trademark is one that merely hints at the type or nature of the good. And an example of that is copper tone. Copper tone is a type of suntan lotion. It's merely the trademark is merely suggestive of what the good is. Third is going to be descriptive. Descriptive is basically what it sounds like, and an example of that is going to be Holiday Inn. It's a particular hotel or inn, and it's Holiday Inn. And you'll notice that the strength of the mark is going to decrease the more you get from fanciful, arbitrary to the descriptive. You have arbitrary, fanciful, you have suggestive, you have descriptive. The last category is generic, like think light beer, okay? Generic trademarks are not able to be trademarked. I get calls sometimes where somebody says, well, can I trademark wedding chapel? It's like, no, that's too generic. You have to try to get yourself into a category of fanciful, arbitrary for the most strength in your mark, okay? So, what good is a trademark? A trademark is protected by law in one of a couple ways. The first way is called common law rights that are going to be varied from state to state. Simply for the fact that you have created a mark and are using it in your business, you have common law rights to use that exclusively, okay? These are very weak rights, all right? And you basically are allowed to use that common law right to your mark in a tiny geographic region where you are operating from, okay? Does that make sense? And the only thing that you can really do utilizing your common law rights is to prevent somebody second in time from using that, okay? It doesn't allow you to expand into other markets or anything like that. It's just a basic, very weak form of rights to your mark. The stronger mark is when you take your mark, apply for registration with the United States Patents Trademarks Office. Okay? With a federal trademark, you are able to protect your brand by being able to sue people to keep them from infringing on your brands. You're going to be able to have access to get their profits if they've been infringing on your brand in some way. I was involved in a patent litigation where we were able to get all the profits from this infringing product. Rights, more rights. Your bundle of rights are stronger with the federal trademark than it is with the common law rights. An example of this is there was a pub in St. Louis called Exit 68 that had a beer called Frappuccino, and I think it was the Frappuccino with the two P's. As we all know, Starbucks has the trademark on the name Frappuccino, and they send a cease and desist letter to this bar. Now, you have to go online and read it because the pub owner gave a very comical response to it. But that's the ability that you have when you have a federal trademark. It expands nationwide, and when you're first in time, you can send cease and desist and tell people, look, I have a trademark in this and you're not allowed to use it, okay? So the question then becomes, in reality, when does your wedding business really need to think about and consider taking the money, taking the time, and applying for a federal trademark registration, okay? You're typically going to run between $1,500 to $3,000 for all the nuts and bolts and the bells and whistles that go into hiring an attorney to do that. So think about that amount in your mind and do a cost-benefit analysis of what the trademark is and how it can protect you and when you might need to do it. So, because as you already know, you have a lot of things that are competing for your time and money, right? So a couple things to consider is, where does your mark currently fall in one of those four categories? If it's not very strong, you might not be first in that market, and somebody could stop you from using your own business name today, okay? Second thing is that some of the wedding businesses that you have, we've heard discussions before about maybe you want to sell it, or maybe one day, or maybe you want to franchise it one day, right? You're not going to be able to do either of those two things, or at least you're not going to be able to find somebody that's going to want to invest in it or want to buy your franchise if there's not trademarks that are registered and enforceable to protect your marks. So that's another thing to consider, okay? The other thing to consider is whether or not you are going to expand in different markets in your own right. So if you work in 2 different states, if you're in St. Louis, you might work in Chicago as well. And in that instance, you have more ground that you are probably going to need to protect with a mark that common law rights aren't going to do, okay? So it's something to consider, and I highly recommend it, again, if you're going to grow, if you're going to end up trying to sell, you're going to do that.